Hey guys, I know it's getting hot out already, and some people would want to get their AC fixed, and I'm gonna try and run a little bit of diagnosis and stuff that you can do to get your system working. Maybe it will help you get down the road and not be sweating all the time, because I know I can't sleep when I'm sweating and stuff and it's hot. This may help somebody else, somebody else out. That it's just like somewhere in Texas or somewhere where it's hot and they can't sleep and stuff. But right. So the first thing that I would suggest you do is check your fuses. Check your fuses, make sure that all of them are in good shape. If you have relays, make sure that whenever you click it on, you're getting power, and that will diagnose a lot of it there. Now, other thing is, if you turn your bunk and cab and you're not seeing no movement out of this clutch here, this usually turns. But when you put power up to it, the clutch engages and then it starts turning the whole thing, which in turns pumps what this compressor does. It compresses the air and then it puts it through and it goes up to the evaporator core. Not the evaporator core, but the evaporator core. Now, if you don't see this turning, let's take it one step at a time. If you don't see this turning, that means that you don't have enough refrigerant in the system. Either this is a trinary switch system, which everything works pretty much off of there, and then the probe in the inside for not to get for the whole evaporator core not to get frozen over, and then when any air go through it. That happens sometimes because if the evaporator core is dirty or the coil is dirty, then it just doesn't let air go through. You may get a little bit of cool air in the inside, but if that gets frozen over, and it's usually on these older systems like this. So let's say, for example, you put your AC on, you get a little bit of cold air over there, and the fan it's it blows up. You're getting a little bit of cold air, but it's not too much. Second thing to do is make sure that your valves are closed. What this does is, this is only for the winter time. Coolant water goes into the cab and into a heat exchanger, and what it does, a fan goes through it and it provides heat in the inside. But on the summer times, you don't need that. I'm kind of going on redundancies here, but I want to explain and make sure everybody understands the concept, which it's half of the battle. Now, if you have this off and it automatically gets better in the inside, then there you're done. Just make sure you have enough refrigerant in there, and you'll be good. Sometimes all it takes, I know that happened to me when I was in New Mexico. It was hot, and all I needed to do, I went to the truck stop. I overpaid for the little kind of refrigerant they had with the gun itself. All I did is I plugged it up on the low side, which is, it can only go in one side. That is a fail-safe. It can only go in one side, and as soon as this was turning, but it wasn't like cooling down all the way, which you just needed a little bit more refrigerant. I put one can in there, and then my AC in the inside got starting way better. It was, it wasn't where it was supposed to be, but it got to the point where I can go down the road and I can sleep at night, which is mostly what I'm trying to get at here. This is so you're able to get home and get it fixed. Or you may be just trying to troubleshoot your system and trying to fix it and stuff. Like, I like fixing all my own stuff because I don't like getting overcharged. And if this can help somebody else out, then so be it. So that'll be one of the things. Now, if you turn your system in the inside and it doesn't cool whatsoever, and you come out here and this is not turning, thing I would do is I would take a low pressure side where you would have your thing and push it in and see if you get anything out. If you get a little bit of pressure out, that means you still got refrigerant in the system, but you may not have enough. You got to have a certain amount of pressure for the low pressure to kick in your compressor to start working. Now, same thing, one can will get you up to that thing, and once this starts going, it should cool in the inside. That's one of the things that it could be wrong with it. Another thing is that sometimes this plug, like I soldered I kind of crimped mine, but most of the times you're going to have a plug there. Usually if the compressor is kind of old, it might have gotten the pin connections might have gotten loose or stuff. Just make sure you make sure you grip it together and it's getting connection. That's sometimes the issue too. It all depends of, you know, all the steps that you got to take in making sure that you have enough. Because usually what this does, it provides pressure. It pressurizes the refrigerant. This cools down the part in front of the radiator usually cools down. So this will get really hot. And this is like a heat exchanger. That compresses the air. That compresses the refrigerant, which in turn heats it up. When you compress air or compress gas, it will heat up. This, what it does, is trying to take the hot out of it. So that's why it usually would have, it will be in front of your evaporator core, or evaporator core. You'll be in front of your radiator and stuff, because this gets air from the outside in, and it cools it down. It's got to be at a certain amount of temperature. That way it works. Now that's why you see sometimes the fan kick on and off. It's because of that. It's trying to cool that down. But when you're moving down the road, the air will hit it and then it will cool it down. That's why sometimes your AC, once you're sitting still, you hear the fan running. It's because it's trying to cool that down. Now dirt and everything that comes in contact with will plug it up. And especially if that fan is trying to pull air, trying to push air, and it's not getting to it because your radiator is dirty, or your evaporator cord is dirty. Evaporator cord, it's not evaporator cord, but the front unit condenser to cool it down. I know this is kind of hard to explain, but some of you guys would know, that a little bit more mechanically inclined will understand this concept. You can leave, I can't get to everybody, but I'll try to answer the questions as I get them. So all right, sometimes, so like I said before, this little unit controls everything, controls just about everything. It controls the compressor, it controls the fan, and that's most of the what usually goes bad. Now if this is not working, so in this system you have a probe in the inside, which it goes in the evaporator core. Evaporator core, all that probe does, it just makes sure that the evaporator core does not get frozen over, and that's all that it does. The probe goes into it, and it has a little adjustment. It's going to be a mess inside the truck, but it will help me to prove this point. Is that regulator right there, that little regulator right there, you turn it on. It's off right now. Oh, it's on. It was on. So now it's off. And then you turn it on, and you heard it. All this does, a wire goes into the evaporator core, it goes inside, and all it regulates, it turns the compressor on and off. It puts power actually to the trinary switch and makes everything work. Now the trinary switch controls the compressor and controls the fan. Okay, another example. Let's say there's okay, so you turn it on in the inside, and you go ahead and you turn it on, and you say that this is not turning on and off. This doesn't engage, but you check the back and you see you have pressure on the low side. And then you come over here, and there's on this compressor, or almost all compressor, well, I think all of compressors are gonna have ground and a power. Now, I'm gonna tell you what happened to me one time. I had my harness redone at not a dealer, but at a shop. They, it's the whole. They redid the whole harness, and then after that, my AC wasn't working. This was on my Freightliner. And it was because there was two hots coming here. I went in the inside and turned it off, and I saw which one was the hot, and then I knew that the other one had to be ground. So all I did on that truck was ground the other lead. One lead was hot, the other one was ground. All I did was ground the other lead coming from the compressor, and bam, my AC was working. That's all it took. It was because whenever they redid my harness, they put two, there was a ground, there was a wire that was supposed to be grounded, but they put it, I don't think it was even them. I think it was TA when they redid my starter, and the guy didn't know what he was doing, but whatever, that's neither here or there. I was left with two hots, and the AC wasn't working then. But yeah, so then that was one of my issues on my other truck. Say you turn your inside on and everything, and you do have power here, and you have ground, that means that your compressor is bad. Or maybe it's just your clutch. Or you may have a plug that's bad, or maybe it could have gotten messed up from this little section right here going up to the clutch. Sometimes you can't even replace the clutch in some units, in the York units. On this Sandon units where they're laid down style, those usually, they don't sell the clutches by themselves. You usually have to buy the whole thing, and that's kind of bad. But you know, sometimes you lose all your pressure and you got to recharge it, and you know that costs a couple $100, because that's what TA was charging me very long time ago. But you know, like you see in my other videos, I'm not a very big fan of TA, because they're a ripoff, if you ask me. But in any case, that's some of the stuff that you can try. You know, and it's usually about a fuse, or this is not getting power, or that's not getting power. Which, if that's not getting power, that means that the inside probe that I showed you on the dash, that one, if that one's bad, it's not letting power come to it, and that's what activates this. And that usually cuts off the power and stuff, and it lowers down the voltage, which it turns the compressor off, and you know, everything works together on this system. Trying to do, you know, more general stuff, trying to explain this, it's harder to explain, but if you have any questions, just leave them below and I'll get to them as I go along. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of a while to get back, but I do the best that I can, guys. Hopefully this helps somebody out, get them, you know, get them home and stuff. And sometimes, worst case scenario, if you have to replace, because I did that, in one instances, I was coming out of Georgia in South Carolina, and this locked up on me on my Freightliner. So luckily I had another compressor sitting in the bunk, and I was able to swap it out, even though I lose all my refrigerant in the process. This is when I was barely starting working on my truck and stuff, so I didn't know that much. But like I said, I went into YouTube and I found a couple videos that helped me out, and that's what I'm trying to return the favor on this kind of stuff. So all I did is, when this locked up, it was burning up the belt, so I took off the belt, I went down the street, and I, you know, on the parking lot there, and I replaced the whole unit. I put the lines back together like they were supposed to go, and then I went on my way. You know, and all I did once I got, you know, I went down the road, and then that night, once I went on YouTube and found a couple of videos information, I went and got one of the bottles out of the inside of the truck stop with the little handle. And all I did is I plug it up to the low side, and that one can was enough to get it working again. And I used that, and the compressor that's on there now, that's the one that's on my white truck still to this day, that is working. You are supposed to purge the system or vacuum it down to take out all the air, because if you have air on the lines, it actually messes it up. But if you're, you know, on a pinch, you're able to just go get a can, slap it in there, and make sure you don't touch none of the fail safes. That way you don't over pressurize your system. But you know, yeah, but you know, that's worst case scenario. But you can actually charge the system enough so you can get it working, and then you can, you know, be able to sleep at night or do whatever you need to do. Hopefully this video helps you out, guys. Leave the questions below, and thanks again, and please subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I'll try to get them, get them out to you. All right, guys, bye.